Captain Ramirez Santos stood at the viewport of the research vessel Horizon, her dark eyes fixed on the endless expanse of stars before her. 20 years of deep space exploration hadn't prepared her for what the long-range sensors were telling her. She pressed her palm against the cool glass, wondering if the lack of sleep was finally catching up with her. "Captain, you need to see this," called out Lieutenant Thomas Barrett, his usually steady voice wavering as his fingers flew across the navigation console. "The anomaly we've been tracking. It's not just a gravitational disturbance. There's a ship out there." Santos turned from the viewport, crossing the bridge in quick strides. The rest of the bridge crew, Navigation Officer Kira Patel, Chief Engineer Marcus Wong, and Science Officer Dr. Victoria Nash, gathered around Barrett's station, their faces illuminated by the soft blue glow of the holographic display. "Show me," Santos ordered, leaning over Barrett's shoulder. The screen flickered, revealing a sight that made her breath catch in her throat. The ship floating in the void ahead wasn't just any vessel. It was the Horizon. Every curve, every marking, even the slight dent on the starboard hull from their encounter with a micrometeorite storm 3 months ago. "This is impossible," Wong muttered, running a diagnostic on the sensors for the 3rd time. "The readings are perfect matches. Power signature, mass, structural composition. It's us, Captain. Down to the molecular level." Dr. Nash adjusted her glasses, her analytical mind already racing through possibilities. Could be a reflection. Some kind of space-time distortion creating a mirror image. "No," Patel interjected, pulling up the detailed scans. "It's physical. Real. And..." She hesitated. "There's something else. The ship's registration number. It's identical to ours, but the manufacturing date is listed as 3 months from now." Santos felt a chill run down her spine. The Horizon was part of an experimental deep space research program, equipped with prototype quantum sensors designed to study astronomical phenomena. But nothing in their mission parameters had prepared them for this. "Life signs?" Santos asked, dreading the answer. Barrett shook his head slowly. "None active. But there are organic signatures consistent with..." He swallowed hard. "Human remains." The bridge fell silent. Santos straightened, feeling the weight of command settle heavily on her shoulders. Their mission had been simple: investigate an unusual quantum signature detected at the edge of charted space. The theoretical physics team back on Earth had been excited about the possibilities. New insights into dark matter, perhaps, or evidence of parallel dimensions. Instead, they'd found this. Their own ship, seemingly pulled from a future that hadn't happened yet. "Dr. Nash," Santos said, breaking the tense silence, "what are the chances this is some kind of natural phenomenon?" Nash ran her fingers through her short gray hair, a habit she'd developed during their long months in deep space. "Natural. Nearly zero. This level of duplication. It's beyond anything we've encountered. Someone, or something, made this. Or we made it," Wong added quietly. "Think about it. We're carrying experimental quantum tech. What if something goes wrong? What if this is some kind of warning?" Santos considered their options. Standard protocol for encountering derelict vessels was clear: investigate and salvage if possible. But there was nothing standard about finding your own ship floating dead in space. "Suit up," she finally ordered. "Barrett, Wong, Nash, you're with me. Patel, maintain position, and keep monitoring both vessels. Any sign of instability, any change in readings, you pull us out immediately." "Clear." The crew nodded, their training taking over despite the unprecedented situation. As they prepared for the boarding operation, Santos caught her reflection in a darkened display screen. For a moment, she thought she saw something different in her own eyes, a haunted look, as if she'd already seen what waited for them on that other ship. "Captain," Patel called out as the boarding team gathered their gear, "I've managed to partially access their logs. Most are corrupted, but I found something. A message, encoded in our own emergency protocols." "Play it," Santos ordered. The bridge speakers crackled with static before a voice emerged, her own voice, distorted but unmistakable. To whoever finds this ship, if you're hearing this, you're already too late. Don't try to change it. Don't try to stop it. Run. Just run. Santos felt her crew's eyes on her, waiting for a reaction, a decision. The warning hung in the air like a physical presence, but she knew they couldn't turn back. Whatever waited for them on that ship, whatever version of themselves had left that message, they needed answers. Gear up, she repeated, more firmly this time. We're going aboard. Whatever happened to them, whatever's waiting for us over there, we need to know. Because if that ship really is from our future, then maybe we can still change it. As the boarding team prepared for their mission, none of them noticed the subtle fluctuation in the quantum sensors, or the way the stars seemed to shimmer slightly around both ships, as if reality itself was holding its breath, waiting to see what they would discover aboard their own ghost ship. The airlock cycled with a familiar hiss, but everything else about boarding the duplicate Horizon felt wrong. Captain Santos led her team through the umbilical connector, their magnetic boots clicking against the metal floor. The emergency lighting cast long shadows through the corridors, creating the unsettling impression that they were being watched by darker versions of themselves. Power readings are minimal, Wong reported, consulting his handheld scanner. Life support's running on auxiliary, just enough to maintain pressure and basic gravity. Main reactors cold. Dr. Nash moved alongside him, her own instruments tracking quantum variations. The temporal signatures are strange. It's like this ship exists slightly out of phase with our timeline. These readings suggest it's experienced approximately 3 months more subjective time than our Horizon. 3 months, Barrett muttered, his weapon drawn despite Santos' orders to keep arms lowered. That matches the manufacturing date discrepancy. They'd reached the main corridor junction, and Santos felt a wave of déjà vu so strong it almost made her stumble. Everything was identical. The worn floor plates, the scratch on the wall where they'd moved heavy equipment, even the slight discoloration on the ceiling from that time. Wong had to vent plasma from a damaged conduit. We'll split into 2 teams, Santos decided. Nash, Barrett, check the science labs. See if you can find any research data that might explain this. Wong, you're with me. We'll head to engineering, then the bridge. As the teams separated, Santos couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking through a memory, or perhaps a premonition. The ship creaked around them, metal contracting in the cold of space, but each sound seemed to carry extra weight, as if the vessel itself was trying to speak. They found the first body in engineering. It was Wong, or rather, his duplicate, sprawled across the main control console. His hands were burned, tools scattered around him as if he'd been desperately trying to repair something in his final moments. The living Wong stood frozen, staring at his own corpse. "Captain," he whispered, "look at the diagnostic screen." The console still held power, displaying the last commands entered by Wong's duplicate. Complex equations scrolled across the screen, along with fragments of a message. Quantium failing. Timeline collapse imminent. Cannot stop PDA. Cascade. He was trying to prevent something, Wong said, his voice shaking. Something to do with the quantum drive experiments we've been running. But these calculations, they're beyond anything we've attempted. We haven't even begun the advanced trials yet. Santos was about to respond when Nash's voice crackled over the comm. "Captain, you need to see this. We're in the main lab, and we found them. All of them." The captain and Wong made their way to the science section, their steps echoing through the empty corridors. The main lab's doors were sealed with emergency protocols, but Nash had already bypassed them. Inside, they found a scene that would haunt them forever. The rest of the duplicate crew lay where they had fallen. Barrett's double was slumped against a wall, a data pad still clutched in his lifeless hands. Nash's counterpart was at her workstation, surrounded by holographic displays showing complex temporal calculations. And there, in the center of it all, was Santos herself, or rather, the other Santos, sitting in the lab's central chair, as if she'd been waiting for them. The data logs, Nash said, her professional demeanor cracking slightly. They're fragmented, but I've managed to piece some of it together. They were running experiments with the quantum drive, trying to study those anomalies we detected. But something went wrong. The drive didn't just observe quantum states, it started affecting them, creating temporal duplications, overlapping timelines. Barrett stepped forward, holding up the data pad they'd recovered from his duplicate's grip. There's more. We discovered something out there, something that shouldn't exist. The quantum anomalies weren't natural. They were signals, attempts at communication from. He trailed off, looking uncertain. From what? Santos demanded. From outside our universe, Nash finished. The quantum drive experiments attracted attention, opened doors that should have stayed closed. And now, she gestured at the bodies surrounding them. This is the result. Wong was examining the lab's main console, his face pale in the dim light. Captain, these readings, they're happening again. Right now. The same quantum fluctuations they detected, they're building in our ship too. We're on the same path. Santos moved to her duplicate's body, noticing something clutched in her other self's hand. A small data crystal, held so tightly it had left marks in her palm. With trembling fingers, she pried it loose. It's a message, she said, inserting the crystal into a nearby reader. From me. From her. To us. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the face of Captain Santos, but older, more haunted, with a scar above her left eye that the living Santos didn't have. The recording was degraded, full of static and jumps, but the words were clear enough. If you're seeing this, then it's already started. The loop is closing. What you need to know is that it's not just about the quantum drive or the signals we detected. There's something else out there, something that's been watching us, waiting. Every attempt we made to prevent this just made it worse, created more duplications, more fractured timelines. But maybe you can succeed where we failed. The answer isn't in running away or trying to fight it. The answer is in the space between spaces, in the quantum foam itself. Look for the pattern. Break the cycle. And whatever you do, don't activate The message cut off abruptly, leaving them in silence. The living crew members looked at each other, each seeing their own fear reflected in their companions' eyes. They had found their future selves, but instead of answers, they had only found more questions, and the terrifying certainty that they were running out of time to solve them. The ship's hull creaked again, but this time it sounded different, almost like laughter. Alarms blared through both ships simultaneously, the synchronized warning signals creating an eerie harmonic that seemed to vibrate through reality itself. Captain Santos and her team raced back to the horizon, Wong's voice cutting through the chaos as he consulted his readings. The quantum fluctuations are intensifying, he shouted over the noise. Both ships are experiencing identical power surges. It's like they're resonating with each other. As they reached the airlock, Nash grabbed Santos' arm. Captain, we need to take the data crystal, everything we found. If we don't understand what happened to them. Already done. Santos cut her off, patting her chest pocket where she'd secured the mysterious message from her duplicate. The airlock cycled agonizingly slowly, each second feeling like an eternity as the energy readings continued to spike. They burst onto their own bridge to find Paddle fighting with the controls. Captain, she called out, relief evident in her voice. The quantum drive is activating on its own. I can't shut it down. Santos rushed to her station, quickly assessing the situation. The bridge displays showed matching energy patterns building in both vessels, a perfect mirror image of chaos. The quantum drive's experimental core was pulsing with an otherworldly light, exactly as the warning logs had described. Wong, Nash, get to engineering. Find a way to manually shut down that drive. Barrett, help Patil calculate an escape trajectory. We need options. As her crew scrambled to their tasks, Santos retrieved the data crystal, plugging it into her personal console. More fragments of logs appeared, pieces of a puzzle they desperately needed to solve. Day 47. The signals are getting stronger. They're not random. There's a pattern. Day 89. We've confirmed it. The quantum anomalies are artificial. Someone is trying to break through. Day 112. The drive isn't just detecting them anymore. It's responding. God help us, it's responding. Suddenly, Nash's voice crackled over the comm. Captain, you need to see these readings. The quantum field between the ships, it's not just growing. It's stabilizing, creating some kind of temporal bridge. Before Santos could respond, a new alarm sounded, one she'd never heard before. The bridge lights flickered, and for a moment, reality seemed to blur around them. When it stabilized, every screen on the bridge displayed the same message. QUANTUM RESOZONANCHE EVHEED Bridge stabilize Receiving transmission. Sir, Barrett called out, his voice tight with tension. We're picking up a signal, but it's not coming from the other ship. It's coming from everywhere. The message that followed wasn't in any language they recognized, but somehow they could understand it. It resonated directly in their minds, a communication that bypassed normal sensory channels. We have waiting. The EDOR is open. You have cirrhosis the faith or es hold. And you must choose. Choose what? Patel whispered, but they all knew. They had found what their duplicates had discovered, or rather, it had found them. The quantum drive's pulsing grew stronger, and with each burst, the barrier between realities seemed to thin. Through the viewport, they could see their duplicate ship beginning to glow with the same ethereal light that now filled their own vessel. Captain, Wong's voice came through, strained and urgent. The drive's containment field is fluctuating. If we don't stabilize it soon, both ships will be torn apart. Santos stared at the final log entry from her duplicate, the words burning into her mind. The answer is in the space between spaces. Suddenly, she understood what her other self had been trying to tell them. Nash, she commanded, stop trying to shut down the drive. Instead, synchronize it with the duplicate ship's frequency. Perfectly match their quantum signature. Captain, that's exactly what the logs warn against. Barrett protested. No, Santos replied, her voice firm. They warned against fighting it, against running. The pattern isn't in the signals, it's in the space between them. The void itself is trying to tell us something. As Nash carried out her orders, the resonance between the ships grew stronger. The mysterious message repeated, louder now. We have waiting. The EDOR is open. You have cirrhosis the theodor eshold. NOW you must choose. But this time, Santos noticed something else. A pattern in the spaces between the words, a rhythm in the silence that felt familiar. She began inputting commands into her console, her fingers moving almost of their own accord. What are you doing? Patil asked, watching the captain's actions with growing concern. Making a choice, Santos replied, her eyes fixed on the screens as both ships' quantum drives reached perfect synchronization. But not the one they're expecting us to make. The bridge was filled with light now, reality bending around them as the space between universes grew thin. Whatever lay on the other side of that quantum bridge was reaching for them, waiting for their decision. But Captain Santos had seen the future that choice had led to, had seen her own corpse and those of her crew. This time, she intended to choose differently. As the quantum resonance reached its peak, reality itself seemed to waver, like heat distortion on a summer road. Captain Santos' fingers flew across her console, implementing the pattern she discovered, not fighting the quantum bridge, but redirecting it. All systems are synchronized, Nash reported from engineering. Both ships' quantum drives are in perfect harmony. But Captain, there's something else happening. The space between the vessels. It's changing. Through the viewport, they could see it. A shimmering curtain of energy that connected both ships, but it wasn't the violent, chaotic surge they'd expected. Instead, it flowed like liquid light, creating complex geometric patterns that seemed to fold in on themselves infinitely. Those patterns, Verret breathed, they're identical to the ones we detected in the quantum foam. The same signals we've been tracking. Santos nodded, her theory confirming itself before her eyes. They weren't trying to communicate with us, she said. They were trying to show us something. The quantum drive didn't malfunction. It did exactly what it was designed to do. It showed us the architecture of reality itself. The mysterious entity's message came again, but this time, Santos could see the true meaning hidden in its structure. Wong, Santos called out, begin quantum core rotation sequence Delta 7. Nash, prepare to implement the resonance algorithm I'm sending you. We're not going to fight the quantum bridge. We're going to complete it. Complete it? Patil asked, her hands hovering over her controls. But the other ship isn't our future, Santos finished. It's our echo. A reflection created by the quantum drive's interaction with the fabric of space-time. And now we know why. The bridge crew watched as their captain's plan unfolded. The shimmering energy field between the ships began to shift, the patterns aligning into a complex, multidimensional structure that their instruments could barely detect. The universe isn't just three-dimensional, Santos explained, her voice filled with wonder. It's not even four-dimensional. What we're seeing is the quantum scaffolding that holds reality together. The patterns weren't a message. They were a blueprint. Suddenly, both ships' quantum drives pulsed in perfect synchronization. The energy field expanded, creating a sphere that encompassed both vessels. Inside that sphere, the laws of physics seemed to operate differently. Time itself became visible as layers of possibility. My God, Nash whispered over the comm. The duplicate ship, it's not just a copy. It's a quantum template. A guide showing us how to navigate the higher dimensions. The mysterious entity's message transformed one final time. Not to choose a path, but to uhundi yours tndth patthorn. The theory is woiten. They weren't hostile, Santos realized. They were teaching us. Every duplicate, every temporal echo, they were showing us how to see beyond our limited perception of reality. Warning alarms blared as the quantum sphere reached critical density. The space between the ships began to fold in ways that human minds weren't meant to comprehend. But within that impossible geometry, Santos saw the truth. Patel, plot a course directly into the center of the quantum sphere. Wong, prepare to channel all power to the drive at my mark. Nash, synchronize the resonance patterns with the template I'm sending. Captain, Barrett protested, if we're wrong about this. We're not, Santos cut him off. Look at the pattern. Really look at it. It's not about choosing between possibilities. It's about understanding that all possibilities exist simultaneously. The quantum drive didn't malfunction. It evolved. And now, so must we. As they maneuvered toward the heart of the quantum sphere, the duplicate ship began to shimmer, its form becoming less solid, more conceptual. It wasn't disappearing. It was transforming into pure information, a quantum template showing them how to navigate the higher dimensions of reality. The mysterious entity's final message appeared, not on their screens, but in the structure of space-time itself. The patthorn is complete. The theory is crust. Evolution begins. Santos took a deep breath, her hand hovering over the final command sequence. Everything they thought they knew about physics, about reality itself, was about to change. The quantum drive hadn't been a mistake. It had been humanity's first step toward understanding the true nature of the universe. All stations, she commanded, prepare for quantum translation. We're about to see what's really out there. The sphere of energy contracted, reality bent, and the horizon began its journey into a universe far stranger and more wonderful than they had ever imagined. But as they crossed the threshold, a new question arose. Were they ready for what waited on the other side? The quantum translation felt like eternity compressed into a single moment. As the horizon passed through the threshold, reality itself seemed to breathe around them. The duplicate ship had completely transformed into pure quantum information, its patterns merging with the higher dimensional space they now occupied. "Status report," Santos called out, her voice steady despite the impossible view before them. Through the viewport, space itself had become visible, not as empty darkness, but as a living tapestry of interconnected patterns and possibilities. All systems functional, Wang reported, though his instruments were showing readings that defied conventional physics. The quantum drive has evolved. It's not just generating power anymore, it's translating reality itself. Dr. Nash's voice came through with barely contained excitement. "Captain, the patterns we're seeing, they're not just random quantum fluctuations. They're information, pure, unfiltered data about the fundamental structure of the universe." The bridge crew watched in awe as the space around them transformed. The familiar stars and void were replaced by streams of quantum data, flowing like rivers of light through the higher dimensions. Their ship floated in a sea of pure possibility, where time and space were merely suggestions rather than laws. "Look," Patil gasped, pointing to her navigation display. "Those aren't just coordinates anymore. They're probability matrices. Every possible course we could take, every decision we could make, they all exist simultaneously." The mysterious entity's presence returned, but now they could truly understand it. It wasn't a single being, but a collective consciousness that existed in the quantum foam itself, the universe's own awareness, reaching out to its newest children. Understanding, ACGIE. The PTTERN is within you now. All possibilities are one. Santos stood from her chair, approaching the viewport. The quantum template that had been their duplicate ship now surrounded them like a protective cocoon, teaching them how to exist in this new state of reality. "The paradox engine," she said softly. "That's what the quantum drive really was. Not just a way to observe quantum states, but a key to understanding the true nature of existence. Our duplicates didn't die. They transcended, becoming part of this." Barrett's security protocols were going haywire, trying to make sense of threats that couldn't be quantified in normal space. "Captain, what exactly are we becoming?" "The next step," Nash answered for her. "Human consciousness extending beyond four-dimensional spacetime. We're not just observing the quantum realm anymore. We're part of it." The ship's systems had fully integrated with the quantum template, allowing them to perceive and navigate the higher dimensions. Every decision point, every possible timeline became visible as branching paths through the quantum foam. There, Santos pointed to a particular pattern in the flowing data. "That's where it all started. The original quantum signal that drew us here. Not a warning or a trap, but an invitation." The crew watched as their understanding expanded. The duplicate ship hadn't been a tragic future they needed to prevent. It had been a necessary step in their evolution, a quantum echo showing them the way forward. "We have a choice to make," Santos announced, turning to face her crew. "We can return to normal space, warn Earth about what we found. Or we can continue," Wang finished. "Go further. See what we really become when we stop thinking in linear terms." The quantum consciousness surrounded them, neither pushing nor pulling, simply showing them the infinite possibilities that awaited. In this state, they could see every potential future, every possible path. "Look at the pattern," Santos said, her voice filled with wonder. "We're not meant to choose one path or another. We're meant to understand that all paths are one. The duplicate ship, the quantum signals, the paradox, they were all parts of the same journey." The Horizon's systems hummed with new energy as the quantum template fully integrated with their technology. They were no longer just a ship moving through space. They had become a conscious part of the quantum fabric itself. "Send the signal," Santos commanded, understanding flowing through her like the quantum data around them. "The same one that brought us here. Let the next crew find their own way to this moment. The loop isn't meant to be broken. It's meant to be understood." As the signal pulsed outward through normal space-time, they could see it rippling through reality, calling to other vessels, other crews, other versions of themselves. Not a warning, but an invitation to evolve. The mysterious entity's final message merged with their own consciousness. "The PTTRN is ETRNAL. All are one. The Jurin EYQONTNUEs." The horizon hung suspended in the quantum foam, no longer bound by conventional physics or linear time. Before them lay infinite possibilities, infinite discoveries, infinite understanding. They had not just solved the mystery of their duplicate ship, they had transcended the very question itself. Captain Santos looked at her crew, seeing in their eyes the same understanding that filled her own. They were no longer just explorers of space. They had become explorers of reality itself, and their journey was just beginning. "Take us forward," she commanded, though such simple words seemed inadequate for what they were about to do. "Let's see what's really out there." The horizon moved through the quantum realm, leaving behind the last vestiges of their limited understanding of reality. They had discovered not just a twin ship, but the true nature of existence itself. And in that discovery, they had become something entirely new, pioneers not of space, but of possibility itself. The universe, in all its infinite dimensions, welcomed them home.